Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Enlightened Entrepreneurial. Today's interview is entitled Myth and Misconception about Life Coach or Business Coach. And I'm very excited to be hosting today Tracee Sioux. I think I pronounced that right.
It's Sue, Tracee Sioux.
Okay, there you go. Tracee, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sure our audience would forgive me about that, and and you also. You see, I get into trouble, every time I get people's names wrong, because people say you should get your guest name right. What kind of host are you? Oh, I do beg your pardon. I'm still human, But hey, great to have you.
No, it's a very Thank you for having me. It's so great to be here. My name is uncommon and often mispronounced.
Okay, thank you. Now, Tracee has done quite a lot of things, over her career and as a coach, which we are going to look at, together in our time here. And also is going to be sharing with you about the myths that surrounds, coaching, whether you need a coach or whether you don't need a coach. Tracee will be sharing those things with us today. To get us started, Tracee, we always love to hear about your background, what you've done and, what you represent and, what your educational background, if you're okay to share that with us so that our audience will know who you are and how they can relate with you.
Sure, yeah, I'd love to share that. So I am a spiritual business and life coach and an author, and I own a publishing company. And I got there, obviously, the straight and narrow path. No, of course not.
Right.
It wasn't even a thing when I graduated from college. I went to the University of Utah. I studied political science and creative writing. I got my dream job. Making $7 an hour as a community journalist for a newspaper in Tooele, Utah. And it was the best job I think I've ever had because they gave me creative freedom. It was an extremely small staff, so I learned how to do every single function in the newspaper, from layout and design to headline writing to writing editorials to reporting on school board and city council and the nuclear waste industry. I really had a lot of creative freedom there, and I had a mentor that was really great about developing my talents, and I even was a mentor to the photographer, and this was back in the day when they still had a dark room. So I would go in there on weekends and I would play in the dark room, and it would be really fun. So that's where I started, and I started doing community business journalism there. So a business would come into town or Walmart would threaten to take over, and we would report on that. And it led to a career, 20 years of business journalism, which has had its ups and downs for sure, as journalism has really transitioned into almost a non-profession, really. So after my years in community journalism, I moved to New York City, and I was offered two jobs. One I thought was so cool. I was going to work for a women's magazine, and I was going to write those, advice pieces, if my husband's having an affair, what should I do? That kind of thing. And I thought that would be really fun. And I also got offered a job for a trade journal that focused on travel and meetings and conventions. So I thought that sounded really pretty boring. But the women's journal was in New Jersey, and I had an apartment in Brooklyn that I had just rented, and it was going to be a 2-hour commute each way. And I didn't think that my young marriage at the time was going to hold up to that, nor did I think I could really physically take that kind of demand on my life. So I chose what I thought then was the second choice. And I went into this business magazine, this trade journal, and I started reporting on business in all areas of business. I went from community business to a broader scale business, travel industry and resort industry and communities and cities and what they offered. And it really started me on a very fascinating journey, talking to hundreds of entrepreneurs, featuring hundreds of entrepreneurs, finding out how did you start your business and what did you do and how many times did you fail and what did you do after that? And it became a consuming passion for me. I love the people of business.
Right.
Business is interesting in general, but it's the people of the business that I find fascinating. What drives them to start one? How did they figure out this was even a market? Why are they putting all of their life savings into, this venture that they're so excited about? That's what became fascinating to me. And as the travel industry died, I moved my business online, and I started a website called The Girl Revolution, and it was to empower parents in the face of raising daughters in today's culture and media, and I could never figure out how to make that profitable.
Right.
I did it for 5 years. It was totally a labor of love. I had a daughter, and I was doing it out of pure passion. And blogging was just barely brand new. It was just a little baby, and there were like these superstars who were making a ton of money, and then everyone else who was doing it was completely broke. And I was in the completely broke category. And what's funny is I did get a lot of success out of that. I was featured in New York Times Magazine. I was featured on Today.com. I got a lot of press. Millions of people read my articles. I wrote over 1,000 blogs. So there was a level of recognition success, but I made absolutely no money. I totally spent money on the project. And eventually that became unsustainable for me. After about 5 years, I had to admit that a blog is not a business.
Right.
And your listeners should actually know that. A blog is not a business. And I started to not want to talk about that anymore. My daughter was going to middle school, and I figured it wasn't really appropriate to write about her in public anymore. And I started becoming very passionate about spirituality. I had started on a spiritual path. I had witnessed 9/11, 8 months pregnant, and after that I had a very severe postpartum depression and a really serious anxiety disorder, just a really terrible one for me. And I saved myself by starting on the spiritual path and becoming a seeker. I started with law of attraction and what can I attract into my life that's good. And so I started to write about that, and I started to spend time helping people discover what their soul's purpose is. And in 2012, I found myself divorced. And I had always heard this voice in my soul that said, I want a divorce, I want a divorce, I want a divorce. Because there had been a conflict in me about what I wanted to do. Versus what my husband wanted me to do. And I wanted to write books and be a coach and help people. And he wanted me to go get a crappy customer service job making $12 an hour. He didn't care where. And I just wasn't willing to do that. And it just made my soul ache and cry out. Just the thought of that just was so devastating to my soul. So when I found myself divorced, I had this incredible peace because that conflict was over. And my soul can do anything she wants now. So what do I do, right? So I decided to do an experiment in 2013 from January to December. I would say yes to everything my soul told me to do, no matter what. Without question, without demanding to know the answer or the outcome, without good reasons. I would just listen to that voice and I would say yes. And I recorded that journey. It was the year that I really began to build my business as a coach, a spiritual business and life coach. And it was definitely a very interesting year of awakening. And I wrote a book called The Year of Yes. What if you said yes to everything your soul told you to do for 1 year? And now that's what I teach people how to do. I teach them how to listen to their soul's voice, to create the business that they want, to make business decisions, to grow their business, to work with the people that they want to work with, instead of listening to all of the outside voices telling you what marketing funnel is the latest. Tune in to what your soul already knows. And I began to live my business and my life with this promise. Your soul knows where she's going. She knows the fastest, easiest way to get there. And she will never, ever steer you wrong. And that's how I live now. And that's how I teach my clients to live. So that's a bit about my journey.
Incredible. And, you now run a coaching program, helping people from all walks of life. Talk to us about that for a moment before we jump onto the main myths and misconception around coaching.
Yeah, so I do have a coaching program, and it's the Year of Yes. I work with people. Generally, people think that they can't hear their soul, but you are hearing your soul all the time. Now, I define your soul as the deepest, corest part of you. It's the piece of you that is eternal, and it has this wisdom. So some traditions call the soul the Holy Spirit, or the conscience, or
Right.
intuition, right? So we all know that it exists. We have language for it in our culture, and every culture has language for it. So it's not religious specific or religion specific. It's this deep part of you, this voice that you sometimes hear that's saying, I want to write a book, or let's quit this job and go hike the Appalachian Trail for 3 months, right? It's the voice inside of you that is telling you how to be happy.
Right.
And that is what your soul wants. Your soul wants you to be happy. And if you learn some things along the way, great. But we resist that voice. And so we'll say, no, but my budget, I don't have enough money. And we'll say, no, but I'm so busy, I don't have time to write that book. Or we'll say, oh, gosh, no one gets to do that. Certainly not me. I'm not qualified for that. So I help people work through that. Those voices are your ego. Okay. So you have a soul voice that's like, hey, let's go play with dolphins in the Caribbean for the summer. And then you have the ego's voice that says, what are you, crazy? We can't do that. We don't have enough time for that. We don't have enough money. No one gets to do that. That's just delusional, right?
Right.
And so what I help people do is figure out how to follow their soul's voice, how to calm their ego's voice, how to tell which is which as they start their businesses and start this new way of living in their life. All is not and people are not going to love to hear this from me, but the goal is not to be a six-figure business. The goal is to be a really happy business owner who helps a lot of people. And your soul could care less about the word six-figure. And your soul could care less about $1 million company. Your soul does not care about specific numbers. Your soul cares about being happy and living your purpose and being fulfilled, and whatever number that turns out to be is fine with your soul. It's your ego saying, oh, well, you're not a success unless you made it this way. But there are lots of really amazing businesses that operate where the business owners are happy, the clients are happy. It serves the community, it serves the business owner, it serves the clients, where the number is not the important, relevant aspect. So I help people sort of work through those mindset issues and work through their fear, work through their feelings of unworthiness, work through their ideas about life that are maybe not serving what their business is. And a lot of that is the same for a lot of people. I see a lot of the same trends for a lot of people. So we work through that for a year, and through that year, we're building the business, we're growing the business, and the results are phenomenal. Once you take this kind of approach, I mean, honestly, I have one client, she started with me in May last year, and she was miserable. She was miserable because her business was eating her life. She was always available, always had no boundaries on email or phone. She was working 60, 70 hours a week. You know, she was not a happy person. It was, her family life was suffering. Through our work, she doubled her income. She increased it 50% more, I should say. She increased her income 50% more in the last 6 months of 2015. And she reduced her work hours and put boundaries around it so that she was working 40 hours or under. So that's the kind of results that we're seeing when we change our focus and when we change our ideas, right? So her thinking was, I can't take time off work, my business will fall apart. So we did an experiment. She went to visit her mother, who had been ill, for 10 days. I said, this is an entrepreneurial experiment. Go see what happens, delegate the work to others. She did that, and her business grew while she was gone. And she realized, oh, wait, I can use the resources available to me, these people I've already hired, and not micromanage everything, and things actually go better. And so she began to practice doing that more and more over the year, and her income increased, her family life improved. She became became much happier. So that's the kind of thing that I do. And that's the kind of thing that most entrepreneurs need to work on. Everyone thinks that what they need is another business class or the newest funnel, but that's not really it. What they need to work on is their own internal stuff, their fear, the messages their ego is sending, and making choices from a deeper place.
Incredible, incredible. Now, before we jump into that, I'm hoping we will be able to go into how you wake from making decisions from a deeper place later on. Let's talk about how you got your first client during those early years. What did you do?
Well, when I finally decided that I had to get serious about my business, I was making $600 a month,
Right.
and I was divorced. I had been a stay-at-home mom who had worked, but it was not my primary function. My primary function was as a caregiver. So I kept my foot wedged in the door of journalism. I was still a journalist. And during the period that I had started working from home after I had kids, the journalism industry, my industry, had tanked, like completely tanked. So I had gone from making a couple $1,000s for a feature story that I was writing to making like $65 for a feature story that I was writing. And that was just the industry with the burgeoning of online and traditional media not keeping up competitively. So there were outside forces that were hindering what I was doing. So I used my skills to focus more on marketing, and I would write hundreds and hundreds of blogs a week to try to make ends meet. And I would write newsletters and marketing copy. But I knew that I could not make a good living at that. I could not really sustain my family on that kind of money because it truly was just pennies.
Right.
So I decided to take a class, and this was my soul speaking to me. I knew a friend. She was in the coaching industry, and that's what I really wanted to do. I really wanted to be a coach. I wanted to help people with all of this knowledge I had accumulated over 20 years of business journalism, and all of this knowledge I had accumulated over years and years of spiritual study and experiment. So I heard about this class, and it was a 12-week class. And my friend said that it was the thing that made the difference for her. And I didn't have a model. I had no business model for which to make money from.
Right.
I knew that it was there, but I didn't know what it was. So I got on this free call, and I heard my soul say, you have to do this. You have to do this. If you do not do this, you will get stuck here, and we cannot get stuck here.
Right.
But I only had $600 in my checking account, and the down payment was $500. And I was like, I can't do this. So but my soul was insistent, if you don't do this, we're going to get stuck here. We're going to get stuck here. We're going to get stuck here. Now, I want to tell people that they're constantly being marketed by the coaching industry, extremely expensive products. This was a $1,500 product. So for me, this was a lot of money because I didn't have any money, but it was a calculated risk, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Right. So I did not commit the next $30,000 of my income to someone, nor did I commit like a $12,000 group coaching program. It was $1,500, and it was a calculated risk, and it would provide me with the knowledge that I needed to create a business model for what I wanted to do.
Right.
I did it. $1,500. The next couple of weeks, I used what I learned in that program, and I made $6,000 for my first marketing client through a package that I created. Now, these were already skills that I had. They were already products that I was selling. I was already doing this kind of work, but I was doing it for much less money, and I was doing it at the client's whim instead of telling the client what I was going to do for them. And I met the woman in a yoga class. That's how I got my first client. I met her in a yoga class. She was a healer, and I said, okay, well, I'm trying to heal myself after my divorce. So I went and saw her as a client, and I told her what I did, and she said, oh, you helped me. And so I then sold her my package. And from there, after her marketing pack was over, I sold her a year-long coaching package to help her build her business. So that's how I got my first client. Call it serendipity, call it law of attraction, call it networking, right? Because everything is networking. But that's how I did it. I took a class so that I could get a business model that was smarter than what I knew how to do. I took a calculated risk in investing in coaching, and I took a yoga class.
Incredible. And the rest is history. And
The
now
rest is history.
you're serving
Yeah.
a lot of clients, along the way. Incredible. And now, how do you market your business?
Okay, so I have I take online marketing very seriously. I make sure that my website looks very professional. I have a social media campaign that I have going. And I do a lot of podcasts, radio shows, and I'm active in my community is how I really do it. And here's what I know about that. Your website isn't necessarily the thing that's going to drive business to you. But when you meet someone or someone hears about you, they are going to look at your website as a sign of credibility. And to get more information from you. So a lot of people might think, oh, I can just throw my website up and then never network in the community. That's not going to happen. You'll throw your website up and no one will ever even look at it, right? So when I give my business card to people, that's when they look at my website and go, oh, she is legit. And oh, maybe this is interesting to me. Same with social media. People need to hear your message 7 to 12 times before they take action. And I find that that's even a pretty optimistic number. I have people who have listened to my stuff or read my stuff for years and years. And they've followed everything that I've done, and I would even call them fans. But maybe they haven't even bought one of my books, right? And then suddenly I'm sitting next to them at a networking event or a social event, and I get a client because they have been exposed to what I've been doing for so long that they feel confident and comfortable with me. So I tell people there is no short path to marketing. It is a persistence and consistency thing.
Incredible. And the more they see
As
you out there, the more they know that you are there to stay. Because some people, they just want to see, are you going to be here tomorrow?
Well, it's true. It's true. In a lot of industries, people, oh, I'm going to be a life coach. And then 3 months later, they're like, well, that didn't work. Right? But business in general is a long game. It is not a sprint. It is a long game. It is about really being consistent, about really persisting, about really being sustainable. And you can't be sustainable if you're expecting these sprints, this one funnel campaign to work for you and make you a millionaire. That's just not how it works. And if someone tells you that it is, I would question their knowledge about business, because truly business is about getting up every day and doing it over and over and over and over and over. So for your entrepreneurs who are thinking, why is this taking so long? It's not. It's gradually building. It's like the snowball effect, right? What you do now could get you an amazing client 3 years down the road. You don't know. So it's just going to build on itself and build on itself and build on itself.
Incredible. Looking back now to those, first few months, what sort of main challenges did you face that you wish you can highlight to to those who are in this stage themselves, and maybe solutions you can provide?
Yeah, I was scared out of my mind.
Right.
Okay, that's the long and short of it. And I was simply terrified. I was in a financial position where Susie Orman would just freak out if she found out I was starting a business, because you can't afford that, is what she would say.
Yes.
And the truth is that I couldn't afford it. But you know what? I couldn't afford not to. Okay, right. That's the thing. I couldn't afford not to. On a very primal level, I had children to take care of. And on a very fundamental level, I had a soul who knew what she wanted to do, felt called to that, and could not be denied it any longer. So I just had to do it. But the whole entire time, scared out of my mind. And most people are when they start a business. Like I have these business owners come to me and they think they're the only ones who are scared and everyone else knows what they're doing. Well, here's the truth. No one knows what they're doing. And do you know why? Because we're doing something that has never been done before.
That's right.
We're operating in a world that has never been done before. We're doing businesses now that did not exist. When I graduated from college, no, when people said, "What are you going to do?" Never once did I say, "I'm going to be a spiritual and business life coach," because that wasn't a thing. Okay, that was not a business. There was no industry around that. That was not even one of the options. Our entire economy has changed. I believe we're moving into a small business economy, and a lot of that is driven by economic necessity of the 2008 crisis, where businesses learned to operate on skeleton crews and they didn't rehire employees. And it took us a couple of years to figure that out and to go, oh, wait, I need a new plan. But I think people are starting to realize, oh, wait, I need a new plan. This form of security that existed through the Industrial Revolution and the technology revolution, the first part of it, doesn't exist anymore. And so now what am I going to do, right? And I think that people are looking for something different in their work. Now that they know there is no security, what they really crave is meaning. They really crave purpose. They really crave connection. So most entrepreneurs that I meet who are starting businesses are doing it from a different place than maybe previous entrepreneurs did. And we're doing it in much higher numbers. And some of my clients are completely inventing new professions. I have one healer who does healing work that has never been done on the planet before. And she's like, gosh, why is this so scary? I'm like, oh, I don't know, because maybe you're inventing it. Like, as we go, you're inventing a whole new thing. So that's scary. And it's also something where you have no path before you. There is no one in front of you to go, oh, look where they stepped, right? So if your father was a doctor and you watched what he did every day to make that happen, and you understood the path that he went on through college and internships and residencies, then you know how to get there, right?
Yeah.
But if you're starting a business that has never been invented before, you don't have that path. And so your expectation of rising to success on this straight and narrow path is unreasonable. And what you need to do is really give yourself permission to fail, give yourself permission to experiment. Look at the whole thing as an experiment, because that's what it is. There is no path laid before you. There is no right way to do it. There might be a lot of business coaches out there, but they aren't doing exactly what I'm doing, and they aren't trying to achieve exactly what I'm trying to achieve. So I can look at them and go, that's interesting the way they're doing that, but that's not necessarily the path that I'm on, and it's not necessarily what my path is going to look like. And so when entrepreneurs really start to think about their business as their own creation, as their own experiment, as their own calling, that's when they can really start to accept the fact that this is terrifying.
Right.
It's terrifying. And it should be terrifying. And it's okay that it's terrifying.
Incredible. We're just coming towards the end of our time. I'm going to ask for a favor from you. I'll
Sure.
put you on the spot for a moment. Will you be okay to do a second part with our audience, because we haven't covered the myths that surround business coaching and life coach in general, but we've been covering some of the most important things here. Would you be okay if we have you back on the show? Maybe
I would love to.
Incredible. But before we go, if people wants to connect with you real soon, where can they find you?
Yes, I'm at TraceeSiou.com. And let me spell that because it is kind of funky. It's T-R-A.
I love the way you say it. It is. Funky. I got it wrong in the beginning.
Oh, I've gotten all kinds of wrong. I have to spell my name every time I say it. So it's TraceeSiaux.com. And you can also find me on Facebook. I'd love it if you would friend me personally so I can actually interact with you, because I can't really do that on my business Facebook page. And I have some books on Amazon. One is The Year of Yes, which I told you was my experiment. And it's The Year of Yes, What If You Said Yes to Everything Your Soul Told You to Do? And the other I recently wrote called Soul versus Ego Smackdown, How to Say Yes to Your Soul and Tell Your Ego to Suck It. And this is a great handbook for entrepreneurs, because it will really help you understand which one of those voices is your soul and which one of those voices is your ego. And it will help you learn to tell the difference, and then also to make some choices to say yes to your soul instead of your ego. So both of those are on Amazon and other retailers like iBooks and that sort of thing. So I'd love it if you'd connect with me and check me out.
Incredible. Once again, thank you so much, Tracee, for sharing your, your wisdom with our audience. I'm learning this stuff, and especially, and I'm, was writing notes as you were sharing, your experience and your view to how business should be done. And
thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
It's incredible. And I look forward to the second part of our time together, talking more about coaching. And I think it's very, very important, especially in putting, the spiritual aspect of it into the coaching. I think I definitely need that myself.
Well, I have room for more clients.
It's incredible. Okay, with that said, thanks for joining us. And guys, thank you for being here with us. We will certainly have Tracee on another episode, so be on the lookout for the second part of our podcast with Tracee Sioux. Did I get that right?
No, it's just Sue, like S-U-E.
Oh,
it's just spelled funky.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like Sue, S-U-E. It's spelled funky. French. Awesome. It's spelled French.
Beautiful. Okay, so we are going to have another special time with Tracee Sioux. Be on the lookout for the podcast in the members area, and you'll be able to hear the next part that's about the aspect or the myth and the misconception around business coaching or life coaching in general. And I'm looking forward to that so much. And thanks again for being here with us. I'll speak with you very soon.